Hello everyone, this is Brianna Keilar. What surfaced overnight changes everything about how a single comment can ripple across continents. A remark about Greenland delivered casually triggered an immediate and coordinated reaction across Europe. According to official documents and sealed diplomatic records reviewed under oath, this wasn't dismissed as rhetoric. It was treated as a signal. What you're about to hear reveals how seriously European leaders took it and why the response unfolded faster than anyone expected. Before we go further, subscribe right now, because what you're about to hear is not being explained clearly anywhere else. And once you understand it, you'll see why so many officials are suddenly choosing their words very carefully. Let me start with the timeline because the sequence matters. The comment was made publicly at 9:12 a.m. Eastern. Within 40 minutes, internal correspondence began circulating across European capitals. Not press statements, internal correspondence. A coordinated alert distributed through diplomatic channels flagged the comment as strategically consequential. That phrase appears verbatim in 3 separate memos. I'm going to read this word for word. Any suggestion of territorial acquisition involving Greenland alters existing assumptions and requires immediate alignment. Read that again. Requires immediate alignment. This memo is dated the same day. It's stamped restricted. The distribution list includes senior officials in Paris, Berlin, Copenhagen, and Brussels. Names are partially redacted, but titles are not. By noon, contemporaneous notes from an emergency call show leaders asking the same question repeatedly. Is this policy or is this positioning? Not once, not twice, repeatedly. Here's the part no one expected. Attached to those notes is a map. A printed satellite image of the Arctic region. Greenland is circled in red. Shipping lanes are highlighted. Mineral zones are annotated. The annotations are handwritten. The photo of this map was released as evidence during a closed parliamentary review weeks later. Think about that. This wasn't treated as a joke. It wasn't brushed aside. It was analyzed. Another document in the packet is a briefing prepared by a European Security Council working group. The title reads, Greenland Sensitivity Assessment. It includes 12 pages of analysis. Page 3 is missing. Page 4 is heavily redacted, but page 5 remains intact. It lists potential responses. Diplomatic, economic, strategic. The margins are filled with notes. One says, do not escalate publicly. Another says, privately clarify intent. Privately clarify intent. At 3:47 p.m. local time in Copenhagen, an internal email was sent from the Danish Foreign Ministry. The subject line is simple: urgent coordination. The body of the email contains one sentence. We need to know how serious this is. That email was forwarded 18 times in under an hour. Let me read another excerpt. Greenland is not a bargaining chip. Any implication otherwise requires response. That sentence appears in a draft statement prepared but never released. Why wasn't it released? According to an insider who later testified under oath, the concern was that public escalation would lock positions too early. But it gets worse. A second wave of documents shows that European leaders weren't just reacting to the comment itself. They were reacting to context. Internal reports reference prior private conversations, notes taken during closed-door meetings. One line appears repeatedly. Pattern recognition. Pattern of what? The answer appears in a separate set of contemporaneous notes from a meeting in Brussels. At 11:06, one participant says, this fits a broader negotiating posture. At 11:08, another responds, then we treat it seriously. Treat it seriously. Now let's talk about Greenland itself. Because according to an internal economic assessment included in the file, Greenland's strategic value has increased dramatically. Rare earth minerals, shipping routes, military positioning, exact numbers are listed. Projected shipping time reductions, estimated mineral reserves. The figures are precise. The tone is not speculative. It's operational. One page includes a photograph of a whiteboard inside a policy office. On it, 3 words are written in large letters. Access, influence, precedent. That photograph was entered as evidence during a legislative hearing. The person who took it testified under oath that it was erased immediately after the meeting. Now step back, because this isn't about one comment, it's about reaction, and reaction reveals priority. Within 24 hours, draft statements were prepared in 6 languages: English, French, German, Danish, Spanish, Italian. Each draft says essentially the same thing, but with subtle differences. One emphasizes sovereignty, another emphasizes alliance unity, another emphasizes historical agreements. Read that again. Historical agreements. Those agreements are referenced in a legal memo dated the following morning. It outlines prior treaties involving Greenland, specific dates, specific clauses. Entire paragraphs are highlighted. The memo concludes with one sentence. Any deviation would constitute a rupture. Rupture. An insider familiar with the process later broke silence. Under oath, this individual described a sense of urgency bordering on alarm. Quote, "It wasn't about today, it was about what this opened the door to." Opened the door to what? The testimony doesn't specify, but the implication is clear. Meanwhile, public reactions were measured, carefully worded, calm, but internal communications tell a different story. One text message exchange between senior advisors reads, "Keep calm publicly, move fast privately." Read that again. Move fast privately. Flight logs from the same week show something interesting. Unscheduled diplomatic travel, aircraft departing Berlin, Paris, Brussels, all headed north. No press, no announcements, just movement. According to released records, these trips were logged as consultative. Consultative. Photos taken by airport staff show briefcases, thick folders, red tabs visible. One photo, slightly blurred, shows the word Greenland printed on a spine. That image was submitted as part of a media inquiry response months later. Now we move into the courtroom phase because parliamentary hearings followed, testimony was taken, questions were asked under oath. One lawmaker asked directly, "Did the comment alter your assessment of regional stability?" The answer was short, yes. No elaboration, just yes. Another witness was asked, "Was this treated as hypothetical?" The response, "No." Read that again. No. This is where the stakes rise. Because if European leaders treated the comment as actionable, not rhetorical, that tells you something about trust, predictability, and the current state of transatlantic relations. Short sentences matter here, because the pattern is clear. Immediate internal alignment, quiet coordination, public restraint, private urgency. If this were anyone else, if this were a minor issue, the response would have been laughter, dismissal, maybe a headline or two. Instead, we saw sealed records, emergency calls, draft statements never released. You have to ask why. Ask. One internal analysis offers a clue. It references precedent anxiety, the fear that normalization of such comments could shift boundaries over time, not overnight, gradually. And once that happens, the framework changes. This isn't about Greenland alone, it's about norms. Legal stakes are significant because treaties matter. Political stakes are significant because alliances depend on predictability. Moral stakes are significant because smaller regions rely on larger powers respecting established agreements. This isn't about one document, it's about behavior. And behavior repeated across capitals tells a story. We're nearing the end, and I want to be calm about this because panic helps no one, but awareness matters. What we've seen are official records, internal correspondence, contemporaneous notes, testimony under oath, all pointing in the same direction. A comment was made, it was taken seriously, and it triggered a coordinated, quiet response across Europe. Long term, this raises serious questions about communication, about intent, about how words from powerful figures are interpreted when global tensions are already high. Think about that. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, share this, and stay alert. Don't let anyone tell you this doesn't matter, because it does.